Welcome back to Arise Prime Time. I'm Charles Inyekolu, and now straight away to informed analysis that makes sense of what you've heard on the program so far. And helping us with that is the Professor of Communications and Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Thank you, Prof, for coming.
Thank you, Charles. Good to see you
And
again.
I mean, you were sitting there patiently listening to the spokespeople on opposite sides of the political divide, speaking about everything from the legal challenge that's gone to the tribunal to allegations of incidents of ethnic strife and all the rest of it. What's your assessment of the weight of the discussion?
Well, to be honest, sometimes it can be very emotionally draining, because you will have thought that in the post-election stage, what we probably should be doing is to be doing some review, just to be able to improve on future elections. It's not to say that post-election stage does not involve the intervention of the judiciary. But of course, there's some hits that we seem to be feeling. Some very serious issues are arising. And of course, you cannot probably blame the litigants, because we thought some of these issues should have been resolved in the pre-election stage. But they were quiet in the election period, but now they are rearing their heads again. And of course, they are very, very concerning, because the anxiety is increasing, and a lot of pressure is now on the judiciary, and sometimes you also want to sympathize with the judiciary, because the jury is out somewhat against them, and you just want to wish them well, because lots of expectation, on all the sides, and at the end of the day, my sense is that however the case pans out, I still imagine that there will still be some levels of dissatisfaction, even with the judgment, irrespective of how, whichever way it goes. So what it means is that the argument and counter-argument is a continuing thing, except, there's a culture of, except there's a different kind of culture. Maybe some level of reorientation, such that we accept positions the way they are, irrespective of the frustration, the irritation, that may come. And of course, if victory is achieved in an immaculate way, so to say, in a way that you say is top-notch, and how do we arrive at that, if we can just improve on the productivity and efficiency of our system, really. And if we do that at some point, and even if controversy will arise at the end of the day, it's not going to be as deafening as it is appearing now. But now we're having a very deafening controversy, and I'm not sure we have had it so loud, except maybe with time we seem to have forgotten. But it's really very, very disturbing. I'm sure the last time we had this kind of controversy was 2007, maybe in the 1978-79 election. It's not really good for our democracy, really, because at this time we're supposed to be deepening or consolidating it, but there are frightening concerns, because of the kind of things that are probably coming up now.
I think that's a very good point you make. That's why I kept asking each one of them, would you accept defeat if it comes to that? I guess the key thing is for the public to feel that justice has been seen to have been done. Because if you look at, for example, the Abia State case. I mean, today the Labour Party was declared the winner, but most people that you see and hear,
they seem to be pleased with it.
And they've said that the woman who was in charge of the elections there was very, very down the middle, and was, seemed very upright in the way that she decided to sort of, take the charge of the situation. That's the kind of thing people want to see.
And that's what we're talking about.
Because there'll always be losers.
There will always be losers. And that's what we're talking about, our system needing exemplars, beacons, epitomes, people who can be above board, who will be like a contrast, to the preponderance of poor value system, poor virtue system, people who subscribe to low objectives,
Absolutely.
Who are vulnerable, to temptations, and that's the hallmark of our political process, where characters are always suspects, and we cannot really exonerate ourselves. There are so many people who are guilty in the circumstance, and that's why we keep talking about us, the need for us to have the appropriate leadership, that will be able to inspire and galvanize us, not at the level of pronouncement, but in actions, in their actions, because actions helps a lot, not just coming to mouth something, and of course, when people are looking at you, you are doing exactly the opposite. Perhaps, I think we need a very deep-seated level of reorientation, really, cultural reorientation, to accept the democratic culture, and democracy is like a game, somewhat. It's about winning and losing, and you can lose at different levels, either at the ballot box, but in the circumstance that we are in now, also through the instrumentality of the judiciary. But we can safely predict now that even when the courts finally make their own decision through the tribunal, through the Supreme Court, Charles, I'm sure we're going to be here debating it. You still see people grumbling. Of course, there will be stoic submission that we are going to leave it to the cause of God. But that, with the subtext is that there's still some level of dissatisfaction. Do not forget 2019 presidential election. The court decided, the Supreme Court decided that Buhari remains. But even as we are seated here, people are still saying that Buhari didn't win that election. And of course, previous elections too, many of them, even the 1979 election, there are people that will still argue that Shehu Shagari didn't win the election. So what is that thing that? What is that dispute? Maybe we should also conclude that it's probably not a Nigerian.
Very briefly, because we're out of time.
Maybe we should also conclude that it's probably not a Nigerian thing. Even the certain Donald Trump still thinks that
that's
Joe Biden didn't win the American. So
that's a good point.
Maybe it's the hallmark of democracy, but again, we have to watch it and try to improve on our attitude towards winning or losing.
Prof, thank you very much indeed. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is the Deputy Dean of the Postgraduate School at Bayes University in Abuja. He's also a Professor of Communications. Thank you.